Hi, I'm Ryan Hunter with the Kalispell City Council, and this is the inaugural episode of Kalispell Connections. This is a personal project and not something related to my role with the Kalispell City Council. But my first guest today is the Executive Director of the Flathead Food Bank, Jamie Quinn. Hello, Jamie.
Hi, Ryan.
So, Jamie, first off, I wanted to ask you, how has the food bank been impacted with the pandemic? Obviously, there's been a lot of folks who have lost their jobs. Have you seen uptick in people visiting the food bank?
We have obviously, and we've had a lot of people call and say to us, "I don't know what to do. I don't know what to bring. I don't know what to do because I've literally never been in this position. I'm out of work for the first time in my life, and I'm worried about how many I can meet right now." So, but we just want to be clear, and we have let all these people know there's no income qualification guidelines. There's no qualification at all to receive services. We just ask that they come through during our curbside pickup hours, that they have an ID for them, and we just take their name. We don't pass IDs. We don't pass any pens. We don't pass anything. We just check their ID, ask them how many in their household. That way we can just track how many we're able to assist during this expansion for us. And that's really it. But we're here to give out food to everybody that needs it. And when I say food, I don't mean just the traditional box and shelved items. Obviously, those are going out. Dry beans, mac and cheese, canned fruits, canned veggies. But we've also got a lot of fresh produce. We've got frozen meat. We've got milk most of the time whenever we have it. Eggs. We have a lot of other great things that are going out with this. So we just ask people to come by and utilize us, because if it means that you're going to be able to pay utilities and rent, or make that car repair, put gas in your car so you can go back to work, we want to help you to be able to do that.
Great, that's so great. And do you have any numbers? Have you seen, have you been collecting data in terms of how much of an increase you've been seeing in terms of numbers of people?
Sure. So we're pretty much expecting across the board at a minimum right now, double on everything. So normally we do 500 to 600 households or so a week. Right now we're probably doing 800 to 1,000. That's between people coming into our curbside, but that's also in partnership with Eagle Transit and Team Rubicon that we've been delivering to low-income senior apartment complexes on Mondays and Thursdays. And we deliver to about 450, sometimes maybe even upwards of 500 units, just between that alone. So right there is almost 500 new or sometimes unique individuals that we know are at risk. They're lower income. They weren't able to stockpile. They're not able to keep going to the store and checking if shelves have stuff on it. So we're expecting at least basically a double within our pantry. In addition to our backpacks, we're working with Heart Locker, the rural schools, Kalispell, Evergreen. We would normally do like 550 to 600 or so for backpacks. We're expecting about 800 to 1,000 a week to go out as well, because same thing, no guidelines. If parents are going on Fridays and getting that breakfast and that lunch pickup at the locations or at the Heart Locker buses, we're turning around and we're giving out those bags to everybody that's coming. But it's been a great partnership, because even when Heart Locker is done with their bus routes every day, if they've got 3 or 5 meals left over, they come and they drop them by us, and then we give them out to customers. So we're really utilizing all these programs in a really effective manner, surprisingly, for such short little time and notice to be able to create all of these partnerships.
That's great. And the Eagle Transit participation, that's a direct result of the pandemic as well, because they don't have as much ridership. Is that correct?
Yeah, so their ridership went down. And so since they received state and federal funding, they cannot be involved in the transport or the delivering of food.
Oh,
So, but what we can do is we're able to utilize their drivers, their buses, and just send volunteers. So they're not technically delivering food. Our volunteers are doing that, but it takes a huge weight off of us, because it's less on us of sending out our own staff, since we run on a very, very small staff. So it's not us taking an important staff off the floor that we need. It's utilizing existing resources that are already out there and just sending our volunteers with them. And that has been amazing. We're so happy for Elizabeth and Tom at Eagle Transit, because they kind of had a little forethought with some of this coming and said, if we can get the okay to do this, what can you use us, and what would that look like? And at first we kind of got scratching our heads, okay, this is a great concept, what are we going to do with this? And it became really clear quickly that we need to start with our most at risk, which is our low income senior apartment complexes. There's about 8 of them in Kalispell, Big Sky, Kalispell Senior Apartments. There's the Elms, there's a lot more. And between all of those, we're making sure that we are getting to them. And the response from not only our seniors has been amazing, but their family members who live in Washington, who live in all over the country that right now physically cannot be there to help their family members. So the response has been great, even from the additional family that says, hey, I didn't know how I was going to take care of my mom because I live in Washington. And I now know that she's going to be okay because she sent me pictures of bags of food that were delivered to her door.
Yeah, it's so great to see the community come together as part of this, this crisis we're facing. And, on that, I know it seemed like you guys were a little bit stretched on food and resources when this first hit. How's that looking in terms of your resources, the food and also the financial side, the money side?
So for us, the food side, we were able to get ahead immediately because sourcing that first week became that utter freak out for all of us of how are we going to get food if the grocery stores can't? And what are we going to do about that? So immediately we called up our partners at the Montana Food Bank Network, as well as them working with the state in Helena. And we've actually turned within just a few days, we turned part of the building into county warehousing. So we've been able to secure up food access, not just for us, but for the Flathead Valley. So we're sharing with Big Fork, Lakeside, Columbia Falls, North Valley Food Banks, Heart Locker, Sparrow's Nest. We're getting food out to the schools, Whitefish School, anybody that we can, we're trying to partner and get this food out to. Next week, we're going to have backpack assistance program coming in from Whitefish to get food, and we're going to have Nurture Farmhands as well coming in. And additionally, outside of Flathead Valley, we're getting this to the northwest part of the state. So we're working with Browning and Blackfeet. Next week, we should actually have some coordination with North Valley Food Bank to Libby and Eureka. So we're really trying to make sure that we're getting this food to the northwest part of the state. And by having access and control to what we can get has drastically improved all of our ability to give out food. And it's a great thing when we can turn around and say, all right, Big Fork, you guys went through a pallet of veggies last week because you did 3 times your normal amount. We have you covered. I've got a pallet of vegetables here for you to come and pick up, and you just keep feeding people. So we've been really, really, really blessed to work with partners in an effective manner immediately. But the reality is for us, we can always do a lot more with funding. A meal cost is about 60 cents per family. So we're really able to feed a lot more with the money than people are when they're going to their local grocery store. The other thing is, you can imagine, since we're working with all these other food banks and all these other areas in the state, we don't have a lot of staff, and any extra resources could allow us to hire some temporary surge staff to make sure that coordination happens and that all of these programs in the Valley are aware that we've got food and we want to help support them.
Mm-hmm. And how about volunteers? I know, there was an concern there about if your staff, somebody came down with COVID-19, how you might have to respond to that and pull in volunteers as a possible solution to that. Or what's the volunteer picture look like for you?
So we've been working with Representative Frank Garner as well as Councilor Sid Dowd to get some staff, or I should say volunteers, trained to be immediate backup if something were to happen. Because my concern isn't how we're managing things right now. It's the reality of if one of us comes in contact even with it, our ability to go and get tested is pretty limited. I think we can all agree that testing is limited. And if one of our volunteers or one of our staff comes in contact with it and it traces back that we were within a period of time frame in the office, then that means we've all got to quarantine for 2 weeks or get tested, on top of the fact that before we go back, we've got to sanitize and then get back to what we're doing. So we're working with Sid Dowd and Frank Garner to make sure that we've got a replacement crew. We just want them to stay home and just be called upon if and when we need them. We hope that we don't, but that has been a huge assistance for comfort, because our concern after we got the food wasn't so much, okay, we we have food, but what happens to this food if we can't be here to get it out? And we don't want to see that happen to the community. It would be too detrimental. So we're really appreciative of them. And as most food banks and a lot of nonprofits or volunteers who are primarily senior citizens and older individuals who are now mostly staying at home and self-quarantining, but we've been really, really, really lucky because we've gotten children, we've gotten people that are out of work, that are laid off, church groups that are coming in consistently and helping us pre-pack our bags, bag down some of those produce we have, because if I've got an 850-pound box of loose apples, I kind of need those broken down with somebody with a mask on and gloves so that way we can give it out. And we've been really, really, really fortunate for that.
Yeah, and I assume proper social distancing with all the volunteers and everything else. If somebody wanted to volunteer or donate food or financial resources, what's the best way to get a hold of you or get in contact with the food bank?
Get in contact. Facebook is really big. Most of our updates are going onto our Facebook page. We're answering the Facebook messages we're getting, or you can just kind of show up. If you're a volunteer or you're a donor, we just ask that you knock on our office door because we're keeping the doors locked. It's just to make sure that we're not letting too many people in at one time and we have control over what's going on. That's just really the reason why we're doing that, is just for everybody's safety. But at the same time, just knock on the door. If somebody might not be in the office, just give us a minute. Somebody might have ran to refill their coffee cup. And we'll turn around, we'll get you in. But if not, you can go to our Facebook page. And that's a really, really great way for us to keep people informed on what's going on, because we just really do need the community support. And it's one of those things, we have volunteers that we expect to come in. Sometimes they don't always make it, or there's a miscommunication, but then the next thing you know, you've got like 3 knocks on the door, and then that group that wasn't able to make it, now all of a sudden you're replenishing with other people. So we really, really appreciate it. We do our best to check our voicemail and keep up on the phone, but the phone is obviously ringing nonstop for us at this point. We could get in from overnight and have 36 voicemails by the time we're getting in the next morning to answer. And by the time we even get through just listening to those voicemails, we could have another 10 to 15 before we even start making callbacks. So just bear with us, since again, we are, pretty limited on our staff. We run in operations right now, probably about 6 or 7 of us to handle and coordinate all of this. And that's not really a lot of staff when it comes down to it, with the amount of things that are going on for us right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, great. Thanks for the chat. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we finish up?
Just really that we have one of the best communities ever. Because a few weeks ago, it became how are we going to do a job that is bigger than any of us have ever imagined before, to knowing that we've got the community and the resources available to make this happen. And that's what really is truly amazing for all of us, is that right now, because if it wasn't for the volunteers and some of these customers and these donors coming in, we wouldn't be able to do what we can right now. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, and thank you for all the work you're doing and your staff at Flathead Food Bank. And also from me, thank you to everybody in the community who stepped up. And these are challenging times. We're going to get through this, but we're going to get through it because of all the folks in the community who are stepping up and helping each other. And that's key. So thank you so much, Jamie, for joining me today. And we'll see if this has an audience. I'll put it online, and hopefully folks, it'll resonate. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Bye.